Heather, can you believe that it's season 3?
I can't believe we've lasted this long. Well, actually, I can. Of course we have.
I think people like us. In fact, we ended season 2 saying that if you want to come and be a part of season 3, we're going to invite you. And here they are. So we have a live studio audience of people. I know these people. They like us.
They like us a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
So this is going to be fun.
So I'm Heather, and this is my best friend, Jamie, and this is our podcast, Life in Motion, where we talk about life, the ups, the downs, the in-betweens, and I'm overwhelmed.
You have
everything
an audience
we're not supposed to talk about. So let's get started.
Let's go. Oh, you're overwhelmed because we have people with us.
Because we have people with us.
Yeah.
This is a lot of fun.
You don't look like that's fun.
Oh.
Let's do this. Let's start easy. Let's go in. So we're gonna tell them what season 3 is about. But before, like the last time we spoke with them or at them, because they don't get to usually talk
them. We're with them because you guys are with us.
Was the beginning of summer. So our littles had just gone to camp, but a lot of summer happened from then until now. So let's bring them up to speed. What have we done this summer?
We went to Big Splash.
For our international listeners, Big Splash is a local water park. So
it's got some slides and some little kiddie pools and things like that. And you see all kinds of people at Big Splash.
That's enough. Let's not talk about Big Splash yet, because I do think we should talk a bit more. But we had a fun summer. We also went to Six Flags. Where you see the same people with slightly more clothes on.
Slightly.
Not much. Slightly more clothes on. So we did Six Flags. We did Big Splash. We did Disney World.
We did do Disney World. That was like the highlight. We just kind of stepped it up. We started with Big Splash. We went to Six Flags, and then we ended on a high note with Disney World.
Yeah, we definitely stepped it up. So Disney World, we just took our littles. So that was fun.
We left the big kids at home. Yeah. Whit and I left our 3 older kids at home by themselves with a checklist of all the things that they were supposed to do while we were gone. And I kept it minimal. Like, my expectations are low. I just need you to water my plants, feed the dogs, let them out in the morning, and then
check on the chickens.
Please feed and water the chickens. But other than that, I mean, you guys just eat the corn dogs and the burritos that are in the freezer and you'll be fine. And we called a couple of days into it, and they're like, well, I haven't been able to get out to the plants, and I'm not sure what's happening with the dogs. And I did get up to let the chickens out around 8:30 or 9 this morning, which they get up at 6 o'clock. So they're like...
Well, and Whit was watching on the Nest cams. So we're in Florida, and he's watching to make sure everybody's okay, and watching the time go by.
There's a camera on the back patio.
For 10 hours, the dogs are not outside, so you know what they're doing inside.
Yeah, so we got home, and I keep going around the house, and I keep finding puddles. Like, here's the puddle, and another puddle, and another puddle.
One of Heather's kids said they didn't even act like they needed out. So, all right. Okay. Well, that's all right.
Anyway, lesson learned. Next time, I'll get a babysitter for the teenagers to make sure that...
Yeah. I left my kids with my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, nephew. They all came to our house from out of town. And then my mother-in-law brought her sister. And then her sister invited some extended family over. So it was fine.
It was fine.
It was good. Lots of people at my house.
Yeah.
I was looking in the cameras a couple times. It was like, oh, okay, that looks like a lot of
party.
Looks like a lot of fun. Looks like a lot of fun. I came home to a sick kiddo, which was kind of the pits, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So it was a good summer.
Back in school now.
They're back in school. We're free. So time to have a podcast.
Yeah.
So let's go back to our favorite event of the summer. Would you say favorite?
Are you talking about Big Splash?
Yes. Okay, possibly not our favorite.
Not our favorite, but...
Yeah, I would love for you to share with our friends what you said to me while at Big Splash.
Sometimes I tend to think about things way too much. And so while I was at Big Splash walking around in my bathing suit, I'm just start thinking about, isn't this weird that you just walk around in your bathing suit in front of all these people? And some of these people might know me, or
Sure.
I might know some of these people.
We saw Crystal.
We saw Crystal.
at
And
Big
Crystal
Splash.
said to me, she goes, I was going to come over and talk to you, but I thought maybe you would feel weird talking to me when you're in your
Why?
bathing
Because I only
suit.
have half my normal clothes on? Is that strange?
Less than half. So it's fine for me to stand here in front of you in my bathing suit, but if I was to stand here in front of you in my underwear, that would be weird. But it's exactly the same thing. And so
That's not exactly what I thought you were going to share. What I thought you were going to share. That's great. It's similar to underwear, but what I thought you were going to share is we're sitting in the water, just, like watching the little girls play, sitting where little water's like,
in the wave pool,
lapping up over our lap. And Heather says, don't you think it's kind of weird? I mean, the water's kind of warm. Like, basically, we're all half dressed in a big bathtub together. And I had never thought about Big Splash like that.
A free-for-all.
A free-for-all, which kind of leads us into season 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of a free-for-all.
Oh.
Do you
I guess
think
so?
You don't think so?
Yeah.
I caught you off guard?
You did.
We talked about this. It's in our notes, I think.
Okay.
Kind of a free-for-all because we're not lining out the season week by week by week, which we've done in the past.
Yeah.
So that feels like a free-for-all to me.
Well, it is because we're just kind of taking it week by week because we have to go back a few more steps to what was really going on under the surface during the summer.
Yeah.
And do you want to start?
I'll start. So in between Big Splash and Six Flags and Disney World, I'm also raising kids every day like a lot of you are. And so my 16-year-old, we talked about this last season, he has his first girlfriend. What I didn't know last season when we talked was that he's in love. So, and
maybe getting married.
He might be getting married and everything. He's in love, guys. And I didn't know what that would do to my mama heart. And
it's hard.
It's hard. So I was wild as a teenager. I didn't get saved until I was 22. So anything you can imagine that a young person does if they don't know Jesus, I did. And so just the fact that he even likes a girl kind of throws me like into a tizzy, like, we don't want to get her pregnant. and we don't want to start using drugs now that we have a girlfriend. Which is really ridiculous, kind of. But it's all possible. So Cooper and I really started butting heads this summer in a different way than we ever have before. I mean, because raising kids is always hard, no matter what age they are, but in a way that I started wondering if we could ever recover. If we could ever return back to this loving mother and son. We were fighting a lot about the girlfriend, fighting a lot about the attitude, and some of those things are fine, but I was losing my temper a lot. I'm yelling a lot. He was telling his girlfriend I was yelling. She was telling him I'm abusive because I was yelling. So then I was really yelling because I'm not going to go to jail over this girl. So instead of calming down, I yelled louder. And we decided as a family, Brian and Cooper and I, that Cooper and I would both be in agreement to go to counseling and work on our relationship. So this season, I'm going to take you on my healing journey. Hopefully it's a healing journey. Take you on my journey. I won't take you on Cooper's journey because that's his story to tell, but I'm going to take you on my journey of going to counseling. I said something season 1 in the depression episode that I kind of wish in hindsight maybe I wouldn't have said. There's a couple of times in life I've done this. I did this once. You remember those years ago. It was before the year Cat Grover that we were in small group together. I prayed this most ridiculous prayer. Like, and I can't even quote the scripture, but Lord, if there's anything, how does it go?
It's Psalm 139. It's
you're
the last
good.
verse.
Very good. That's the last verse. If there's
Lord,
anything,
search me and try me and know if there's any hidden way in me.
Oh my gosh. Search me and try me. I prayed this because I was positive there was nothing hidden in me. I was just like feeling so good with the Lord. I'm like, Lord, search my heart. Like, I love you. Search my heart. And he did. And man, I almost went down there for a while. Kat will remember that.
Yeah.
But that's one time. And then in the last episode of our season 1, I said something that I kind of wished I wouldn't have said in hindsight. And I'm kidding. I wish I prayed that prayer. It was good. Hard, but it was good. But I said in that episode that I'm just committed to stewarding the whole of my life.
Yeah. Your mental health, emotional health.
Well, I'm 6 months into all this very clean eating. I wear natural deodorant. I mean, all kinds of different things for me. Guys, listen, I'm not even wearing natural deodorant at all right now because it was giving me a rash. So you might smell me, but I'm healthy. So I'm working on my health. But this thing with Cooper, am I going to steward the whole of my life well? It just feels like between me and the Lord, if I'm not getting along with one of my kids, I'm obviously not stewarding my life well. So I'm going to take you guys along on the journey, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Every week. I'm going to counseling every week from now until the end of the season at least. So that's fun.
Yeah.
So Heather, what has been going on under the surface of your life this summer?
Well, my journey starts, this portion probably starts last summer, actually, when
these people are just bringing out the waterworks.
Get all verklempt again. My oldest son moved out. And he's just like, Mom, I'm going to live my own life and I need to make my own mistakes and do my own thing. And he moved in with another family in town. We still saw him quite a bit. And he was never angry or anything. So there was no friction. It was just, he's out making his own decisions, and I don't have any control over what he's doing, really. Like, he could do whatever he wanted, and I'm just like, okay, Lord, you take care of him and take care of me. But that summer, last summer, I felt so sad, just underlying sadness of he's moving on, he's gone. And I thought he'd probably move back to finish his senior year, and he did, but just so sad. And even though I still had 4 kids at home, in some ways, I felt like an empty nester. Like, this is what it feels like to be, the kids are gone, and I'm on my own, and started thinking.
1 of 5 of your children was out of the house for a summer, and you felt like an empty nester?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just clarifying.
That tells a lot about the remaining 4 of how easy they are. Let me tell you, the weight of my parenting burden lies with my oldest child.
It's because we don't know what we're doing when they come.
We don't. So he's out, and I'm just like, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Those poor children. I hope the 4 don't ever hear this.
They will at some point. It'll be fine. But so then my oldest, he graduates. It's wonderful. It feels so good to finally get him out and be like, I don't have to worry about him. I don't have to worry about teachers emailing me and saying, please, can you make Fran behave or anything like this anymore. Now I'm like, oh, you have a supervisor at work? Wonderful. It's their job now to try to make you behave, and you could lose your job or whatever. And that's on you. I'm free. And it feels so good. If you still have kids in high school or little ones or whatever, and you think that this is really sad, but when you get that graduate done and out of your hair, I've never experienced freedom like that in my whole entire life.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot. That was really a lot.
Well,
a bit much.
It's true.
I leaned over at Francis's graduation. I leaned over to your mother-in-law, like she wanted to hear this from me, but I was like, we've got 8 kids between us. One down. Look at us. Look how good. Like I said, we're doing awesome. I needed a win. So I was like, we've got one.
Yeah.
It's graduated.
So, but it started me thinking like, okay, even though I still have 4 more kids at home, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And how are you going to steward this one life that you have? Are you just going to coast through and, well, you know, here I am, I'm going to get you through high school and then see what happens. And I just had a stirring in me that I'm preparing for the next 20 years now, because I'm not going to get to the end of my life at 60 or 80 or whatever it is and be like, that's it. That's That's what I
prefer
have.
you say 80 or 90, 60 or
Well,
80.
I'm just thinking 60 because that's
really-
that's retirement
Okay,
age. But I
you
still
should
plan
clarify.
on.
You're like, if I
I still plan on
kick the
having
bucket
this
at 60.
podcast at 80, and
Okay, good. Okay, great. Sorry.
but so I am going on my own personal journey of doing your 1 degree with a mentor, and I've already kind of done something similar to this with my life plan, but discovering really where can I focus my life for the next 20 years? Where can my gifts and who I am be stewarded for the people in my life, for the church, for my community to the best of my ability? And so you're going on your journey.
know-
I'm going on my journey.
How did we come up with this season 3? Because I just realized I'm going to counseling every week and you're going to discover your gifts. How'd that happen?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a better place than you are.
Okay, that's fair. That's actually very fair. Okay.
You never know. You never know what dirt and rocks will be kicked up with my 1 degree. You know,
I hope something juicy.
I'm sure something will happen that will make us say, "Okay, Heather, you need some help." I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for someone to say, "We've got some issues, and you really need to deal with them."
Oh my goodness. This is maybe, so we've talked about what we're going to talk about in season 3. What would you say you're most excited about and most apprehensive about as we begin this journey? Because this is different. Every other season we've laid it out on, a whiteboard, and episode 1 will be this topic, this topic, this topic, but we don't have a roadmap. So what are you most excited about and maybe most hesitant about?
Most excited. I'll say most hesitant. Most excited is to be able to say no to the things that I know are kind of, I'll say, a waste of my time.
So you mean people ask you to do things?
And I can say,
Okay.
that's not for me.
Okay.
And I can say it with confidence, not just because maybe I'm uncomfortable with that or that's, doesn't float my boat or whatever, but I can say with confidence because I know I'm not giving you my best. When you ask me to do that, I'm not giving you my best if I say yes. There's a better way for me to serve you. So that's probably what I'm most excited about. Hesitant is...
You don't have to be hesitant.
Well, there's a lot of hesitation. Like, what if I find out something that I, find out something that, oh my goodness, that seems too much for me. Or
interesting.
Okay, because it's my lie of
Yeah.
not enough, or you're not worthy of that, or you're not enough for that, and so
I love that you said that. We're quite different. So now I'm not even doing your 1 degree. But if I was, my hesitancy would be that I would find out that my role or what was just like tiny little behind the scenes, just like stand down.
I love behind the scenes.
I know you do.
I love behind the scenes.
And I'm like, come on, everybody, look over here. Yeah. Okay. I'm most excited about this will sound interesting because I'm going to counseling for my relationship with Cooper.
But really,
you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I'm most excited about the potential growth in my marriage. I have full confidence if I trust Jesus, if I lean into the tools in front of me, that Cooper and I are going to make it. But Brian has asked me to work on some things for 19 years of marriage. And I have dug my heels in because I'm just like, you married me and I'm better than when you married me. So I mean, what more could a person ask for but somebody who's actually improved upon themselves?
What do you mean you've dug your heels in? Because I've heard you and Brian talk about this, and
well, obviously, if I yell at my kid because he has a girlfriend and then yell at him more when he falls in love with her or whatever, obviously I have something that triggers anger. What is that? Because that spills out in all kinds of areas. It doesn't just spill out with Cooper. It spills out with Mostly not with you guys. I can button it up really good. But just, I don't even know what types of things Brian has said, like, I don't know. I can't even think of an example, but he says things like, we have a really good marriage. I think we could have a great marriage. And I'm just like, well, that sounds boring. I mean, I'm fine. I'm happy.
That sounds boring. To me, that sounds scary.
Yeah, maybe scary is the right word.
To take that step into intimacy from a good marriage to a great marriage kind of sounds scary, because what is that what in the world? What is that going to involve in me dying to myself or a dream, or laying something down so that we can have a great marriage? Because that's completely unknown. Because I don't know about you, but where I grew up, the marriage was completely below average. I don't even think it would qualify as mediocre. So
you mean your parents, or what do you mean?
Okay. Yeah, my parents.
Okay.
So they survived until my mother died to a certain extent, but it was really just by the skin of their teeth.
My parents have been married 50 years, maybe 51 years, and they do life very interestingly. And I thought that's how you did life. So like my parents do their work day, and they're retired now. So now they spend all day, every day together, but they do their things, and then you eat dinner together, and then you divide so that you can watch sports and you can watch Hallmark and everybody's happy. So I'm okay to be in my own room watching my own trashy TV. I gave up trashy TV when I started this natural deodorant business. So I'm like, guys, I'm turning into a whole different person. Yeah, I eat healthy. I wear natural deodorant, and I don't watch trashy TV anymore. I mean, like, Brian should be on cloud 9, but I just have a feeling, like, I am excited. I have a feeling there's a lot more under there that I would never let you see. So let's take them on the journey. Most apprehensive, that I might, I'm sorry I keep talking about my armpits, but that I might sweat my way through this entire season. Like, I'm sweating right now. I think it's just because of that light. But
it's all detox.
I got to get this stuff out. Sorry, guys. But legitimately that I might sweat my way through the whole season, because I committed on the front end. And I can look at Lindsay and say, I committed on the front end. So we're in this together. But to be in this together, and I asked my counselor for permission, like, can I talk on my It's such a funny conversation.
Talk on my world famous podcast about.
I said, like, my first appointment. I'm like, did you know I have a podcast? And I'm wondering what she's thinking. She's like, oh my gosh, self-absorbed. And I'm like, I'm just asking because I was just wondering if I learn anything, can I share it with my people? And she's like, sure. Okay.
Although why they would want to hear about your sweaty armpits.
Oh my gosh. But most apprehensive that I'm going to find things out that bring me greater joy. But if I'm honest with you guys, it means being honest with you guys. What that we've talked about, do you guys have questions that we could talk a little bit more to bring clarity?
I'll ask them.
Yeah, please, Crystal.
You talked about your oldest
Mm-hmm.
and how you kind of were like, your heart was sad. What was your push to give you your freedom to walk in?
When my son moved out, and I was sad, and then then he moved back in, but then he graduated, and I'm so happy that he's graduated and moving on and growing up, and it's kind of a completely different, 2 different summers completely. One of it was my relationship with the Lord during that summer was just continually praying, Lord, you take care of him, take care of me, take care of him, take care of me. And really just being able to have come to a place of peace of no matter what, I know that the Lord is taking care of him. Even if he just goes off the deep end, it's going to be okay, because the Lord still has him. So it was just really coming to peace, losing that control of, he's out. There is nothing I can do to influence his decisions. I cannot make him do anything. And so it's just coming to a place of peace of saying, Lord, you take care of him.
Not everyone's story moves along as quickly as Franz
Sure,
did, but I
sure.
will say a lot of credit goes to him. He grew up and matured a lot.
A lot.
In 1 year's time, which helped a lot. Grant?
I have a question.
Yeah, for me.
Yes.
Oh, good.
For Jamie. So, since season 1, you both,
Yeah.
but I think particularly you have talked so much about counseling.
Yeah.
The benefit of counseling, and even at times sending children to counseling.
Yeah.
And so, I grew up in a time where it's a bad word.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I'm curious, in your conversations with children, with your kids, junior high school age kids, what is that like? Because if I try to take myself back to 2002 or something,
Sure.
my parents talking to me about that, I'm mortified.
I also grew up with that idea that counseling was bad. Where things changed for me was when Brian and I went and got our life plan done. And they chart the whole history of your life, like everything. It's a lot like your 1 degree, but a 3-day intensive, all day, every day for 3 days. And a lot of junk came out from my upbringing, from my childhood, from all that. So one of the assignments she gave me was to go to counseling to work on some things. And so, you put a deadline on it or whatever. And I didn't even call that counselor until that 6-month deadline came up. And then I just started feeling it. In my mind, I'm crazy sometimes.
In my mind, too.
Yeah, right. Brian is an executive on staff at the church, and the church gifted us with that life plan. So you could look at that of one of two ways. I guess I could have gone and blown it off, like, I'm not paying for this. But I'm a high responsibility money person. So I didn't want to go to the follow-up counseling, but the church paid for the life plan, and the life plan told me to go. So it was a real battle internally. So I didn't go, Grant, because I believed that counseling was good at the time. I went out of responsibility. So now with my kids.
Sure.
Chase had an incident when he was about 11 years old at a movie theater where got up to go to the bathroom, and some teenagers were following him. So he's still kind of little. None of us got up to go with him. We're all in the movie. He gets up to go to the bathroom. These teenagers are following him. And I still to this day, don't know exactly what happened, but he was terrified. So he tries to get away from them. His story, when we found out 2 months later, his story was and I juked him, and they still followed me, and they were laughing, and I just ran as fast as I could. So he ran as fast as he could, came back into the movie theater, didn't tell us about it for 2 months. He quit sleeping at night, and we didn't know why. Couldn't figure out what was going on. So when he finally brought it up, of course, I'm just like, did they touch you? Did they? And he's just like, no.
He never even made it to the bathroom.
He never went to the bathroom. Then he held it the rest of all those things. Those bladder problems were big. I'm kidding. He didn't have bladder problems. Anyway, when it came up, we talked about it. We did what every good Christian parent does. We went to the Word, and we found some scriptures for him to stand on and to pray. And I don't bemoan that or belittle that at all. And it seemed to really work. And he found a certain level of freedom. And on we went. And 2 years later, last Christmas, Brian was out with some friends one night, and Chase came into my room, and there was just something, that parent's intuition, something was going on. And he came in my room, and he just started bawling. So, my lights were out. I was going to bed, and I was just like, hey, come up here with me. And so he came and laid in bed, and I just held him. I didn't talk. I just held him. And when he took his first deep breath, I said, what's going on? And he said, I don't know. And he said, I'm stressed out all the time. I'm always stressed out. And so I did what I always do, acted like I knew what to do. And I was just like, do you trust me? Yes. And I said, will you let me help you? Yes. And I go, okay. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to find out, and I'm going to help you. We've got this. But I did start talking about it might take you talking to somebody else. And he was so broken that he was okay with it. So he was my first kid that went to counseling. And nobody in the family really knew, except for Eleanor overheard one time. And now she wants to go to counseling so bad because she wants to know what happens in that room. So he was my first and only. He met with this girl one time. He came back a whole different kid after one time, kept going 4, 5, 6 times. He's done, hasn't gone back, hasn't. Occasionally I say, do you feel like you need to follow up a checkup? And he's like, oh, good. He still journals. She taught him to journal his feelings and things like that. So now Cooper, we just hit such an impasse. I don't think either of us wants to not be in a relationship with one another, but it's like neither of us knows how to fix it. And so Brian is the one who asked Cooper, maybe you and your mom should go get some counseling together, which I kind of got suckered into that because I wasn't ever going to go back. I already went once, and I graduated. So I wasn't going to go back because I'm good. But Cooper does want to. And it helps that, like, we can go, well, Chase went, and he's still pretty normal. So that's just kind of how we roll.
I think, my youngest went to counseling, and I told her when she went, I said, she's going to be able to ask you the questions to uncover, because she's having tummy aches, which to me was signaling she's having some anxiety about something, and she doesn't know how to talk about it. So she's having tummy aches, and I said, she's going to be able to ask you the questions and maybe give you some ideas for how to talk about this so that your stress is relieved and that anxiety is relieved. That I don't know, I've asked you every question I can ask you, and she's going to be able, and whatever you say to her is private. So, if you're having an issue with someone, like one of your brothers or something like that, that it stays between you guys, and you don't have to worry about anybody being embarrassed about anything, because she gets embarrassed really easy.
One thing you said, Heather, that I think maybe you just slightly misspoke. I don't think you used the word anxiety with your daughter. And I think we've kind of talked about that before. You use real plain terms, like, because anxiety is a buzzword and depression is a buzzword, and they might have symptoms of those things, but we just think sometimes you're just feeling really sad and I can't figure out why. And I want to help you.
Yeah.
Because I think we're careful to not use words that would maybe evoke some kind of shame in our kids.
Yeah.
Abby.
Hi. Okay, a little bit change of subject.
Good.
But you're like, I'm in my 20s. If there's something that you would say to yourself when you're in your 20s, like if you could go back and do something again.
I have the perfect answer for this.
Good.
So I think I've shared about this on the podcast, but when I was at ORU, it was right after my mom died, a year after she had died. So I have all this emotional stuff that I'm dealing with or not dealing with.
Yeah.
I followed a boyfriend at ORU sight unseen to just like, I need a change. I was aware of the rules at ORU at the time, which there were issues with the length of your skirt, the time that you had to be back in the building. And I was like aware of this, and I thought, well, I can handle that. But because I had dropped out of college in Oregon to take care of my mom, I was an older student. And I had made all kinds of decisions for the care of my mother, very adult decisions when I was 22 years old. And then I go to ORU and I have all these 19-year-olds telling me my skirt is too short. And I mean, there's lots of layers to what was happening in my life then, but I was emotionally grieving my mother. I was starting to be rebellious towards ORU. I came from a small school and church, a good Christian community that I loved being a part of, and making good decisions was very easy for me because we were all making good decisions. And so I get to ORU, and the Christians there are all out partying and, doing things. I'm like, oh, this is what Christians do. And then you add in my rebellion and you add in my emotional distress and things like that. And so I am, it's acting out in lots of different ways. But here's what I want you to know. Because I was so conflicted, and I felt shame for some of the choices that I made. I felt confusion for what I was seeing from authority. I felt confusion from what I was seeing from my peers. There's just so much happening here. I just kept it all in. And I never took it to any adult, any counselor, any professor. And I said, what's happening here? And how do I deal with this? And it was shame that kept me from reaching out and asking for guidance, asking for help, to thinking, which I can imagine in your place, that you are like, am I behind? Am I not doing enough? I see other people getting married and I'm not there yet, or people are going to college and I'm not doing that. So you feel like there's all this conflicted internal dialogue of, am I doing the right things? Well, for me, it kept me from reaching out for help and saying, who, am I doing the right thing? What should be my next step? What do you see happening in my life that's unhealthy? What do you see happening in me that is healthy? And I never did that. And so I was just blindly fumbling my way through, trying to figure it out, compounding bad decision on bad decision, shame on shame, and taking years to kind of finally break free from that. So my older self, I just had lunch with an ORU student that we were a friend
Yeah.
that we were at ORU together, and she had made her own choices and just felt like she had blown up her life while she was at ORU. But we both said, if we could go back to that time when we were in our early 20s, we would have asked for help, said, please tell me what to do. What's my next step? And so that is what I would say to any young adult wondering, okay, what's next? Where do I go? Just say to the people that are older than you, that are 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of you, say, what do you see in my life? How am I doing? And let them speak into you.
And if you are arrogant like I can be, just realize you're going to ask yourself that same question over and over your whole. I thought I was going to grow up, and by 45 I wouldn't have any more questions. I would just be doing life. I would just be doing life because I would be all grown up. You're going to ask that today, Abby, and live the best you can in the moment that you're in with the knowledge that you have, pulling your friends close, steward the whole of your life however you know to do it. And then a few years down, just keep reevaluating. Just, you never quit reevaluating, or you got to go to lots of counseling. I'm kidding. So Heather, before we wrap episode 1, what do we want our listeners, our viewers to take from today, from this episode?
What I hope everybody takes from today, and when they listen to this episode and they listen to the upcoming episodes, is that we want you to go on the journey.
Why do you hate that word so much?
I just hate it.
It's a fine word.
It's I don't know. It makes
We
me
should get
roll
a
my eyes
thesaurus
every
out.
time.
You
I
keep
should.
talking. Keep talking.
That we want you to go on this traveling adventure with us, experiencing your own story. Because there's going to be things that we resonate and say that you're going to be like, I feel that way too. And I hope that you don't sit and just like you're eating popcorn watching like, oh my gosh, this is the juicy details. But I hope
I'll be so mad if they do that.
it's pretty juicy. But I hope that you listen with the thought of, what is my own heart experiencing right now? What is resonating with me? And how can I move forward in my relationship with my spouse, my children, my coworkers, my God, through this season? That it's not just for viewing and entertainment, but it is for growth. And how am I moving forward with?
So we're inviting them to go on a trip. Or is it an expedition, or a tour, or a trek, or a voyage, or a cruise, or a safari? Probably a safari. We'd like you to safari with us.
Yeah.
So
anyway, that's my hope for anybody that's listening this season, as not just entertainment, but to take the journey with us in your own story and what resonates with you and how you can grow.
And as we find resources that we're utilizing, we'll drop them in show notes, share them with you so that you can do the same things that we're doing if you want to. Heather, what have you done in the last week that has brought you or the people around you joy? This stumps her every single time. It's like she has the worst life ever. She can never think of anything joyful. Like we do it every week.
Well, first, okay, so very first cross country meet of the season
that
was on
brought you
Saturday, and it did bring me joy. It was like, let's get back at it, team. They were running a 5K, and it was hot and dusty and sweaty, and they gave it everything they had. There wasn't one kid that quit. It was a joy to watch them. Seeing my son run his first high school meet, it's a big race for a 9th grader, and
Deer Creek?
Deer
Wow.
Creek, and our kids go to a 4A or 3A school. They compete at the 4A level, and they were the only 4A school
Oh, wow.
there. So it was all 5 and 6A. So they always are running 5Ks, and they gave it everything they had. I was so proud of them. So much fun to watch.
Can we at least say that Elliot had a PR?
He did have a
best
PR.
time he's ever had?
So for a 5K, he ran it in 20 minutes, I think, and some seconds. So he beat his best time by a minute.
The only thing I like about running is that you like your kids running. So I don't know what that time meant, but I'm just so happy for him.
So it was over 3 miles in 20 minutes.
Still
so
doesn't mean much
that's
to me.
not
It
too
just
shabby.
seems like something I could do. I don't know, but I'm proud of him.
We'll invite you to
What did I do that brought me joy? So at first, this was almost to not bring me joy, but then I turned it around. So my parents came in town, and they brought me 2 cases of peaches. And that's 80 peaches, 80 peaches, because some truck from Colorado brings them to Oklahoma once a year, and you get up at 5 in the morning and you go wait in the line for the peaches. And I just said, I'd love some. So they brought me 80. And so then my mom proceeds to tell Eleanor, I've got a great idea. Grandma bought them. You can sell them and keep the money. I was like, that sounds like a great idea. So Eleanor had wanted to have a lemonade stand all summer. We live on a road and nobody drives down our street. So I'm just like, nobody's going to buy your lemonade. So $5, like, there you go. Just go play. We never had a lemonade stand. So now she wants to have a peach stand. And I'm like, I don't know that people are going to let me text my small group that lives in my neighborhood. So I send out a Hail Mary, and can you guys buy some peaches? And everyone says yes. So Eleanor went, and it was so cute because I was like, she's a natural salesperson.
Oh, yeah.
I was coaching her up on some things like you always give people more than they expect. So the first person she goes to had ordered 5 peaches. They were $1 each. That's exactly what Grandma paid for them. So they were $1 each. She takes to the first door, and Mrs. McMurray gives her a $5 bill, and Eleanor goes, I tossed in 1 extra for free. So Mrs. McMurray's like, oh my goodness, I'll pay you. And she's like, no. That's just for you. So it was cute, but what's even cuter, because Jesse's here for my small group, what's even cuter is like, so our text thread is talking about how Eleanor's doing with the selling. So Jesse knows now that she's like tossing in extra peaches and all this. So Jessie videoed her because she was going to the door by herself, videos Eleanor and her sales pitch and her peaches. And I gave you a couple extra. And Jessie's like, well, I'm going to give you a tip also. Oh, my goodness. So sweet. So now we're deciding what to spend our money on. She made $60.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, because a couple people gave tips.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just fun to see. She actually really thrived doing that. And it was sweet. They were just my people, loving my people, really beautiful. So anyway, I guess that's it. So if you've enjoyed our podcast, I would encourage you to subscribe, share, tell your friends about us, and come on this journey with us. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.